On your Tuesday episode of Locked On Raptors, as it turns out, you can't build a functional NBA offense entirely out of offensive rebounds.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Tuesday, November the 26th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all of my work over on Blue Sky at woodleyshawn.bsky.social. You can also find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors, and you can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. It's free to join. We'd love to see you come and become part of our listener family over there. Do we squabble sometimes? Yes, but it's mostly in good fun. We'd love to see you become part of our family over there. It's a great little community we got building around the show. Of course, you can also subscribe for free to the daily Locked On Raptors newsletter. There's a QR code on the screen for those watching on YouTube. You can go and click through there, and you can go sign up right through that QR code. And if you're not watching, you can go to the link in the description of the podcast to sign up. It's free. You get it to your inbox every single day. Original writing from me 5 days a week. Katie Heindel 4 times a week with national stories. Michael Shearer from Basketball Poetry once a week. And of course, Josh Lloyd Fantasy Tips. Links to all the best coverage around the league. It's a great value proposition in that it costs you $0 and you get lots of good stuff for it. So go and do that, please. Today's show is brought to you by Built Rewards. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. All right, on today's show, looking at a heartbreaker Toronto Raptors buzzer-beating loss to the Detroit Pistons. Those damn Pistons, I say. They're a real pain in the ass, aren't they? The Raptors fall in a Jaden Ivey tough bucket. Credit to him. Really incredible finish for him. Perfect clock management. All of that to put the Pistons ahead for good at the buzzer after, an effort from the Raptors that was at once pretty encouraging in some regards. We'll get into that. We'll get into the bench. We'll get into the offensive rebounding brigade and all of that. We'll also talk about Scottie Barnes, who was very good in this game. But overall, yeah, there's a lot to dive into here that was not particularly good for the Raptors, either mostly on the offensive end of the floor, but some transition breakdowns and stuff at untimely moments. We'll get into all of that coming up on today's show as we talk about a really nasty game, just from a viewing perspective. Not exactly what you'd show the aliens if you were trying to portray what good NBA basketball is. You had clock malfunctions. We love a clock malfunction, a horn situation for a brief moment. That's totally normal, not at all shocking to see in a professional basketball league. You have, of course, ref stuff. Man, oh man, lots of ref stuff in this game. And it wasn't one way or another. There were lots of fouls both ways and calls that could have gone in either team's favor for sure. There was one instance where there was that jump ball at half court between, I think, Jalen Duren and Jakob Poeltl, and they originally called the foul on Duren. And I think that the officials turned it over because the crowd screamed at them really loud. Screamed at them really loud. My God, that's a first. Maybe I'm missing something from how that all went down, but very strange stuff from Mark Davis and crew on the officiating side of things. And in general, just a really ugly basketball games from two teams that had a whole lot of trouble scoring in the half court in basically every situation. It was a disaster game from an offensive process perspective from both teams. For the Raptors, let's get into it, right? This was a team without Gradey Dick that we knew was going to struggle to create offense, right? Gradey Dick has been the lifeblood of the Raptors offense this season. I stated the number yesterday. I'll restate it here. 9.1 points per 100 possessions better at offense are the Toronto Raptors when Gradey Dick is on the floor versus when he sits. They are a pretty good offense when he's out there and a very bad one when he's not on the floor. And you felt it last night big time. Just the lack of that Jupiter-level gravity that Gradey Dick is already garnering from opposing defenses. The fear in the hearts of the defenders who have to trail him around screens and all over the floor as he covers as much ground as anybody in the league. That was just totally missing from what ended up being a pretty stagnant Raptors offense. They start Davion Mitchell with Barnes, Pirtle, Barrett, and Agbaji. We'll get into Agbaji later. He was really rough in this game, didn't offer much in the way of a release valve, 3-point shooting wise, missed all 3 of his triples in this game, didn't score a point. Tough stuff from Ochai. It's been a bit of a tough run for him. And then Davion Mitchell goes 1 of 7, 1 of 5 from downtown, and you get exactly what you expect to get from him. RJ Barrett goes 1 of 6 from 3. There's just no space out there. And without that frenetic energy that Gradey Dick brings to the table, it's really hard to create good looks. Scottie Barnes, we'll get into him coming up and his overall performance, but I thought he did a pretty decent job in stretches of this game trying to make things happen, just kind of bullying his way in pick and roll with Jakob Pirtle. We saw down the stretch a few moments where he was able to get all the way to the rim. One really untimely miss, which we'll get into, I'm sure, coming up more. But overall, I thought Scottie did a pretty good job of trying to play bailout for this Raptors offense. It's just when there's no driving lanes, there's no space, there's no off-ball movement, off-ball gravity, it's really difficult to create good looks against any NBA defense. And the Pistons, if nothing else, they try extremely hard on defense. They've been an upper half defense so far this season without Gradey Dick and Emmanuel Quickley, obviously, and Kelly Olynyk. They're without their 3 best shooters, maybe their 4 best shooters if you count Jacoby Walter, who maybe is not quite on that level just yet. But when you're leaning on Scottie Barnes to carry the day for you 3-point volume wise, it's just really difficult, right? It's just, you're working in mud. And so the Raptors had to resort to spamming offensive rebounds to keep their offense afloat in this game. And for a while, it kind of worked. And the bench crew, man, oh man, we got to give some flowers to the crew of Bruno Fernando, Chris Boucher, Jonathan Mobo, Jamison Battle, and Jamal Shed. All deserve some flowers. All grabbed at least 1 offensive rebound in this game. Chris Boucher was everywhere on the offensive glass. 4 offensive rebounds for him in this one. You get 3 out of Fernando, 2 out of Mobo. Just absolutely all over the place on the O glass. Scottie Barnes had 7 offensive rebounds in this game. And look, the Raptors had plenty of opportunity to go and grab those rebounds. They bricked a whole lot of shots, and they were there to sort of scoop up the mess. They often didn't put the messes back and had to, take 3-4 opportunities to get one to go back in if they got to go back in at all. But the offensive rebounding was the reason why the Raptors were able to keep afloat on offense in this game. The Pistons started off pretty well. They were hitting their threes. The Raptors fell down quick, but they just kind of scraped and clawed back by just being nasty on the offensive glass. And that bench lineup was just so chaotic, so difficult to box out, swooping in from all angles to grab loose balls. It was really impressive, but it only lasted them so long. They get 23 offensive rebounds in this game, 21 of which came before the final 6 minutes of this game. The Raptors' offensive rebounding kind of dried up down the stretch. And as a result, they got killed in transition a few times, and they just couldn't get enough looks to fall to put themselves over the top against the Pistons team that was also not scoring very well in this game. But that was just the story of this offense without Gradey Dick to insert that, move through that one, without Gradey Dick there to sort of, again, inject some offensive flow and space and breath into what the Raptors were trying to do in the half court. A really, really tough offensive showing for the Raptors in this game. 78.8 offensive rating in the half court per clean the glass. That is terrible. That's like what we saw from the Raptors at the start of last year when their offense was absolutely stuck in the mud with Dennis Schroeder at the lead guard spot. This very much did feel like watching that team from last year, just kind of a worse version of that team. They just had to spam the O boards, and they did a good job of it. But again, down the stretch, the starters come back in. They do less of a good job of it. Those chaos agents off the bench aren't there grabbing loose balls all over the place, and they just can't get enough to go on the first shot offense to keep up. And, the Pistons had some timely shot making, some good looks in transition that the Raptors kind of yielded. The Raptors lose this game despite grabbing 44.7% of available offensive rebounds. That's bonkers. They continue to be the number 1 offensive rebounding team in basketball. And again, it takes you some places. It can account for some things on offense. It can't account for a 78.8 offensive rating in the half court. It's just too much. And they needed more down the stretch. They needed, maybe you bring in a Chris Boucher or a Mobo or even a Fernando at some point to close to just try to go and spam the offensive glass. They brought in Jamison Battle down the stretch. That didn't quite work out defensively. It was a tough one to see the Raptors lose, for sure. They keep on losing these close games. It's maddening. 2 buzzer beater losses in the last 10. It's ultimately, again, we know the deal with this season, and every loss is not something to get up in arms about, because every loss comes with a silver lining of lottery balls, if that's the thing you care about. And every win comes with the silver lining of, oh, wow, hey, look, that's cool. The team won a game. The results are what the results are. I'm more looking at the process, and there was a lot of good process in this game. I don't want to, get away from that. There was some really good defensive stuff from the Raptors in this game. The bench was amazing, and Scottie Barnes was very good, but the rest just kind of fell flat in this one, which tells the story. You lose to the Pistons on the road without Cade Cunningham, by the way. The Raptors were hurt, but also the Pistons were missing their best player. So it's tough stuff. Although maybe Jaden Ivey is their best player. I don't know. Either way, we're going to come back into the side, talk about the Raptors' best player, Scottie Barnes, who was the Scottie Barnes you want to see last night. Despite a couple late misses, he was basically the only guy keeping the ship afloat for long stretches of this one. We will get into Scottie Barnes and what impressed me about his second game back from injury coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Built. If you're a renter, I'd take a look at starting in with Built. Here's the thing. You earn points on everything you buy, typically groceries, travel, all the day-to-day necessities, gas. You get points. That's great. But we don't really get points on our biggest monthly expenditure, which is oftentimes rent. And I'm still not a renter anymore, but when I was, I really wish there was a way for me to make some money on the rent I was paying, because boy, oh boy, did I pay a lot of rent in my life. Built has changed the game by letting renters earn high value points on their rent. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world you can redeem with your Built points. Put it towards a trip, whatever it might be. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba to start earning points on your rent payments today. Today's show is also brought to you by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows you to get rates and perks usually reserved for high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Back at it here on your Tuesday edition of Locked On Raptors, talking about the Raptors falling to the Pistons, moving to 4-14 on the season, which is no longer young. We're getting to the quarter marker of the season. And yeah, this is just kind of where the Raptors are, at least until they get healthy. Man, oh man, it'd be nice to get healthy, because the guys who are not healthy are the guys who bring shooting to the table. And you know what's important in the modern NBA? It's shooting. Scottie Barnes knows this, and last night had himself a pretty good night shooting. Goes 3 of 8 from downtown amidst a very good, very all-encompassing Scottie Barnes performance that nearly willed this team to a victory. 31 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists, a steal, a block, 12 of 26 overall, 3 of 8 from downtown, 4 of 5 from the line. Just a -2. The rest of the starters were extreme minuses in this game. So, Scottie Barnes, his work along with the bench guys, really what gave the Raptors a shot to win this one. I thought Scottie Barnes was the Scottie Barnes you want to see him be. He has such a diverse package of ways to score, and we saw a lot of it on display last night, right? The three-point shooting we saw, those in-rhythm pull-up threes, catch and shoot threes, not the pull-ups. The pull-ups are a little tougher for him, but the catch and shoot stuff that just comes to him within the flow of the offense, I have absolutely no problem letting it rip and putting up 5, 6, 7, 8 threes a night. They need the volume so badly right now. And the thing about Scottie Barnes hitting three, especially if he's hitting threes early in games, like that is softening everything up for him. I've said it before a million times. I'll say it again. Scottie Barnes attacking a closeout is death for the opposing team. And if he's hitting threes early on, the other team is more liable to start closing out on him and trying to run him off the line. And that creates all kinds of havoc for their defense. He's an impossible force to try to get in front of once he gets ahead of steam going downhill. And I thought this was a really impressive overall game from Scottie, operating in really difficult confines, like not a ton of space around him, seeing a lot of different bodies. I thought he did a really good job of kind of guiding the offense in their moments where they just desperately needed anything in the half court. He was the one guy who could create something from nothing on this team in those half court situations. I thought him and Jakob Poeltl did some really good work in pick and roll with one another. Down the stretch, obviously, there were a few instances where Scottie scored or created a three for RJ Barrett. That was a big shot down the stretch. Obviously, there's the one big miss that it really is glaring, right? He runs pick and roll with Yak. He snakes the pick and roll. Yak does like a beautiful, absolutely perfect job of Gortat screening Scottie all the way to the rim, just clearing bodies left and right. Scottie gets to the rim, just a little heavy off glass. It goes back the other way, and the Pistons score to go up 96-95. We'll get into the defensive work on that possession coming up a little bit later on in the show. But overall, yeah, that's not what you want. But also Scottie getting to the rim, that's really important. And I think that Yak-Scottie pick and roll with some more space around it with Gradey, with Emmanuel quickly, like that's going to be a real weapon. I think Scottie, again, he's been working in really difficult context so far this season. No RJ Barrett in the first few games when he first got back, no IQ, obviously. No RJ in the first few games before Scottie got hurt, that is, before RJ came back. No IQ for most of the minutes Scottie's played so far this year. And yet, like, he's still finding ways to get offense off. The mid-range for him has been really exciting. It's something that this is the realm of superstars, right? If you are a superstar, you got to live in the mid-range. You got to be able to make the shots that other teams are trying to make you take. And in the modern NBA, that's mid-range looks. And his mid-range numbers so far, not like scorching hot or anything like that, but pretty good all told. He's at 43% on all mid-range shots right now, 64th percentile. He's 26 of 60 from the mid-range. That's a decent start. Again, he's working in really difficult confines. I think those mid-range looks are going to get easier once there's more space around him with for him to operate within. Short mid-range, he's shooting 44%, 62nd percentile per clean the glass. He's at 42% on long mid-range shots, and he's getting to these spots pretty regularly, right? This is where Scottie Barnes can live, and that short mid-range is looking like cash right now. It does look just really clean coming out of his hand. It feels like it's going in every time he puts up something from inside, 12 feet. It's been really great to see. Getting to the rim as well. He's shooting 71% at the rim so far this season, right in line with his career numbers. He's not getting to the rim as much as you'd like. He's getting to that short mid-range as much as anybody. He's literally in the 100th percentile of frequency of short mid-range shots in the NBA so far. And he's not quite getting those extra couple feet towards the rim. A lot of his shots coming 7, 8, 9 feet away from the basket. But I think Scottie Barnes is so good from that range that you can almost classify those short mid-range looks as near rim looks for him, especially if they keep going down. You'd like to see the rim percentage go up from 25%, but I think, again, that's going to get easier when there's actual shooting and space and proper geometry around him from a spacing perspective. And so operating within the confines he's been operating within, I think he's been really, really fun to watch. He's doing a lot of good stuff. And I think things will just get a little smoother for him once you get Gradey Dick back, once you get Quickly back. It's going to actually be a pretty harmonious team setup for him to work within. And the thing that's really dragging his efficiency down right now is just his three-point shooting. He's not shooting well from three, shooting 27%. But again, he's eager to take them. And for me, the confidence to take a bunch of threes is half the battle when it comes to three-point shooting. They're going to start to fall. 3 of 8 last night, a really good start. And you saw like takeover Scottie down the stretch, right? This is the stuff you want to see as well. Scottie Barnes kind of taking the bull by the horns in a situation where the team just needs any semblance of offensive creation, and he goes to work and tries to create over and over and over again. And in a lot of cases, is getting good looks. Again, you hope those couple bunnies that miss go in next time. But overall, like I think you saw exactly what you want to see from Scottie as he goes for 31, 14, and 7. The Raptors did not lose this game because of Scottie Barnes. They lost this game because Scottie Barnes did not have a whole lot of help in the rest of the starting five last night. It was just a tough situation for everybody. But yeah, I think you got to be pretty happy with what you're seeing. Also, the defensive stuff from him right now. Like he, I think, has taken a leap defensively. He is everywhere. He is nasty. He is just kind of using every inch of his 7'4" wingspan or whatever it is he's got. You just feel Scottie Barnes on defense at all times. And I think, that's what you want to see, right? Like he's just got so much disruptor potential. He's got the ability to kind of blow stuff up on a whim. And if he's really locked in and doing that, obviously the rebounding stuff's been big from him too. The 7 offensive rebounds, the 7 defensive rebounds, a lot of those pretty big as well. It's the all-encompassing jack of all trades. He does everything kind of game from Scottie that you want to see. Felt pretty good about what we saw from Scottie Barnes last night, and hopefully it can continue forward. They're going to need a lot more of these sort of Scottie trying to force things and will things into happening without Gradey Dick and Emmanuel quickly. It's just the half-court offensive context is really challenging. There are ways they can maybe inject more shooting. Maybe you play Jamison Battle more minutes, but there's only so much shooting on this roster. Maybe Jacoby Walter gets some run here now that he's back and healthy with Grady out. But yeah, until those guys get back or until they just go and add more shooting, right? Like this is the thing. I know there were some people who didn't like the Jacoby Walter pick. I was a super huge fan of it when it happened, but this team just needs guys who can shoot because Scottie Barnes plus shooting is historically a really excellent combination. And they just don't have enough of those guys right now. They need more shooting. They need to get Kelly back. They need Grady and IQ. They need all of their guys who can bomb it around Scottie Barnes to really make this ecosystem one that he can totally thrive within. And in the meantime, the bully ball thing, it's going to work against some teams. It's going to work and win them some games here because Scottie's that good. Just fell a little bit short last night. Again, I don't think really much to be put at the feet of Scottie. Maybe some transition defense stuff we'll get into coming up in the last segment that you can put on him. But I think it was probably other guys who let them down a little bit more at some key moments down the stretch of this game. If we're grading Scottie Barnes, 8.5 out of 10, pretty good overall performance from him. Very encouraging as he gets his feet wet back after returning from injury. I guess his third game back from injury, now that I think about it, not his second. My apologies for misspeaking earlier. Either way, we're going to come back on the other side and round it out with the good, the bad, and the from this game against the Pistons. A thing I liked, a thing I didn't like, and a thing that's got me a little bit intrigued. And man, oh man, some transition breakdowns late in this game that absolutely made me want to scream. I will do some screaming about them coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Skims. And look, I'm a person who likes comfortable underwear. I'm not afraid to admit it. I think comfortable underwear are extremely important. It's the first thing I think about when I'm getting dressed. And if I don't have clean, comfy ones, I'm pissed off. I'm going to have a bad day. And so, I think Skims, the men's line that they have recently rolled out, is absolutely going to get the seal of approval from me, a guy who likes comfy underwear. The Skims stretch 5-inch boxer briefs in particular, super duper comfortable. I wear them when I play basketball as my underlayer under my shorts. They're great. They're breathable. They're not getting too bunched up or anything like that. They just stay where they're supposed to stay. Can't recommend you go try them enough. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. Let them know that we sent you after you place your order. Select podcast in the survey and select our show, Locked On Raptors, in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gifts for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever, also available at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. That's skims.com/LockedOnNBA. Wrapping things up here on your Tuesday edition of the show. Just a heads up, Wednesday on the podcast, we'll be joined by Keeks, the stats queen of Raptors Internet, to talk about some Raptors numbers through the first part of the season that we think may or may not be very sustainable. Very much looking forward to that. We did that last year. It was a big hit. So you have that to look forward to on Wednesday. But first, we got to wrap up the show the way we always do on the heels of a Raptors basketball game, which is with the good, the bad, and the a thing I liked, a thing I didn't like, and a thing that's got me a little bit intrigued about your Toronto Raptors following the latest Raptors basketball game. This time, of course, a 2-point buzzer-beating loss to the Detroit Pistons. The good in this game, I'm going Jamison Battle. Lots of guys from the bench to pick out here. Bruno Fernando had a great first half. Chris Boucher flying around doing his offensive rebound thing. But I thought Jamison Battle was really effective, and we have another one, folks. Another guy who's not just a shooter. Trademark, take a drink, whatever. Jamison Battle doing stuff beyond just bombing threes. kind of a necessity for guys who shoot in the NBA these days. You got to have other stuff to your game. I find the not just a shooter sort of commentary on these types of guys always very funny. And yeah, totally last night, totally fit the bill of not just a shooter. Jamison Battle, mid-range craft, a couple floaters he got to fall, getting it on the offensive glass. And some really good defensive stands as well, I thought. And a couple times where he kind of got burned by bad calls. There was one where he totally walled off Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley just fell to the ground, and Jamison Battle got called for the foul. Didn't love that. Totally unjust on Battle's part, on Battle's side of things. But yeah, overall, I thought Battle was really, really good both ways in this game. I thought it was a good call for Darko Rajakovic to put him in to close the game. We'll get into a couple times where it didn't quite work out for him on the defensive end, despite some earlier good efforts on the defensive end. But overall, got to be happy with Jamison Battle. That sidestep three, baby, that shit's going in all the time. Did I just swear? I did, but whatever. It's a throwback to the old version of the podcast. We love Jamison Battle. The bad, look, people will look at the Jaden Ivey finish. Look, that's just an incredible basket. Like, I don't think the Raptors could have defended it any better, really. They put out an all-switch lineup. They took Pirtle out, put Mobo in, had a full switch crew out there to try to, defend that possession as best they could. They get Ochai switched onto on Jaden Ivey. Ochai stayed with Ivey pretty well. It was just like a really good off-glass finish for Ivey. Like, what are you supposed to do? It was really incredible. An awesome game winner for him. Like, you just kind of put your hands up and tip your hat. But they wouldn't have been in the situation where they lost on the buzzer beater to by Jaden Ivey had they not been completely hapless in transition defense in the final minute of this game in a couple of different instances. There was one where this is like a disastrous possession. The Raptors, they're up 95-94. This is the possession where Scottie Barnes gets all the way to the rim with Yak beautifully clearing space with those Gortat screens. It was great to see. He misses it. And then going back the other way, they have an odd man rush. They got 4-on-3 or whatever it is. RJ Barrett completely loses Asar Thompson in transition. And it's like inexcusable. There was not a situation where he had to cheat over towards to stop the ball. He was just on the wing. Asar Thompson's there in his like very clear eye view. And then Thompson just kind of like walks behind him. Barrett's standing there and Thompson's underneath the basket for a wide open pass and finish. It's pretty inexcusable stuff. Not going to lie. It was really, really bad from RJ on that possession. I get it. They didn't have the numbers, but there was no need or reason for RJ to completely lose track of the guy screaming down the wing towards the rim. That's his guy. That's his check. And he just totally lost him at a very inopportune moment. Pistons go up 1. And then, man, couple of really weird RJ finishes at the rim. This was not a game in which RJ Barrett covered himself in glory by any means. His last bad finish attempt was in the final minute or so. I think it's 198 at this point. And RJ Barrett, he gets, good, decent position, but just totally bricks one off glass. And again, transition the other way. Isaiah Stewart just walks through the Raptors defense like a wide receiver walking through a defense that just has no idea he's going to go and just like run a go route down the field. Like totally baffling. You see it on the play. Both Davion Mitchell and Jamison Battle are back. Jakob Poeltl's trailing the play a little bit. He's trying to catch up to Stewart. He's not quite there. And both Mitchell and Battle go to play the ball. This was I think this was Battle's gaff, honestly. Mitchell should be picking up ball, and Battle should be picking up Stewart as he's screaming towards the rim. But instead, both guys go towards the ball. Scottie Barnes is on the wing. He's kind of fallen asleep a little bit. He's just got his guy on the wing. Like maybe he could have come over to help, but it was a little bit late, a little quick in the sequence. I don't totally blame Scottie for this one. But Battle just like completely spaces, goes for ball. So does Mitchell. And Isaiah Stewart has like a free and easy touchdown. And they tie the game and they go and want to win it. Like just tough stuff, man. You cannot have breakdowns of that nature in that level of crunch time moment. And they'll learn from it. They'll be better for it. I'm sure their transition defense is something they're going to be schooled in quite a bit the next time they practice in the film sessions, whatever. But cost them last night. The possession to get mad about was that Stewart finish that they just let him walk to more than the Ivy finish for sure. Let's get into the from last night's game. I think it was Darko's comments on Ochai Agbaji after the game, honestly. He was asked about Ochai and sort of what he wants to see from him by, I think it was Savannah Hamilton asking in the post-game presser, and Darko simply said, quote, he needs to be better. Simple as that. He needs to bring more effort. When you spend 23 minutes on the court and you end up getting one right rebound, that's not good enough. And hard to argue with Darko and the tough love for Ochai Agbaji. It's been a rough couple of games here. He's not quite found that same sort of nasty on-ball defensive intensity we saw from him for much of the season. The threes, look, they're not falling right now. We knew there was going to be some regression to the mean from his three-point shooting. But yeah, to go 24 minutes, 23 minutes and score 0 points, get one rebound, get one assist, like you got to do more than that for a team that so badly needed him as like an outlet for their offense, as someone who could hit catch and shoot threes, who could spring open for looks, who could, go affect the game on the offensive glass. This is a thing he's done pretty well this season. And he was one of the very few guys on this team. Only him and Barrett didn't grab an offensive board in this game. That's not what you want from Ochai Agbaji. He's a guy who's there for connectivity, for sort of hustle plays, and he wasn't making those last night. We'll see what his role looks like going forward here. Maybe he's playing himself out of being a spot starter here. I think that's probably extreme considering how important his theoretical shooting is, just to kind of having some 3-point threat out there in any regard. But hey, if Darko's not happy with what he's seeing, I think Darko's proven like he's not just going to give guys minutes because, they are in theory deserving of them because of politics or whatever. Like if you're not playing well and you're not doing what you're supposed to do, he's just not going to play you. And so, yeah, we'll see with Ochai. It was, not what you want. And I'm curious to see kind of how he responds after Darko gave him some tough love in the media last night. We will leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out, for checking out the show, for subscribing to the newsletter. Of course, please do that. I'm trying to point to the QR code on the screen. If you are watching, you can go right through that QR code and subscribe to the newsletter. You can go to the link in the description if you're not watching on YouTube, and it's much appreciated when you go ahead and do that. We'll be back again tomorrow as Keeks will be along to talk some stats. Looking forward to that very much. And we got gaming as the Heat to talk about Thursday, toxic positivity coming up on Friday. It's all there for you, baby. So thanks so much for rocking with the show. Subscribe, follow, rate, review. Thanks for hanging. Talk to you Wednesday. Bye-bye. Short air. Damn.